Kaavya,
Hi.
you are someone who has a wealth of experience, having lived in the US for a great deal of time. Today, you want to talk a little bit about life in the US, give some insight there, and also compare it with India. So, maybe let's start with your journey. How did you get to the US?
Yeah, of course. So I moved to the US when I was 18 years old.
Wow.
I went to Smith College, which is a small liberal arts school in the middle of Northampton, which is a small town in Massachusetts, around 2.5 hours away from Boston. So I spent 4 years over there, studied economics. It wasn't my top choice of college at all. In fact, I think I really didn't want to go there. It was actually right at the bottom of my list. But honestly, I think it was the most amazing 4 years that I could have asked for. Made great friends, really enjoyed the small town college experience, felt very supported, had a great education. I wasn't someone who was very academically strong in school, in high school, but I feel like in college I got that lift where I actually felt like this is the kind of place which wants to give me the tools to do better and thrive. So I really did enjoy my 4 years there. Yeah.
So, you studied at Smith. What did you do after that?
So after that, I actually moved to upstate New York. I moved to this town called Albany. And I worked at Goldman Sachs in Albany. I actually interned there during the summer as well and really enjoyed my experience. Loved living upstate, felt like it was like I just, got a great apartment. My best friend moved upstate with me. We had an amazing summer. And I felt like maybe this is like what I wanted for the rest of my life. Like it sounded like a great deal to me. Unfortunately, I was in for a rude shock. When I graduated from Smith and moved full-time upstate, I realized that I actually really dislike it. I don't think I was made for, upstate New York, living in a small town. Felt like there was very low diversity there, no real people of color at work, a very everyone who worked there had sort of lived there, grown up there, had family there. They couldn't exactly understand why I was there, and honestly, after a point, nor could I. I was like, why am I here? I've come from so far away. I feel like I'm so much more global. Why am I in this small town? But I did make two very good friends there. So I feel like that is what I took away from upstate New York. I did also pass on my series exams there, a very traumatic experience. But it was a very cheap place to live, so I saved a lot of money and kind of was able to live a very high quality of life with a very low income because of literally how cheap it was. So those were the plus points. It was beautiful, kind of inaccessible without a car, but learned some hard lessons in upstate New York I think I was there for roughly, I want to say 7-ish months. I moved there in July and officially left in February of 2023. So yes.
So, this part of New York, it's not the New York we think of when we actually think of Times Square and all this stuff, right? What are the main differences? I guess, like you were saying, it's not as diverse. It's a little harder to access without a car. Why is this the case? Is it just because there's not as much infrastructure there, or?
Definitely, it's nothing like New York City. I think if you look at America as a country, there are always big cities, and then there are suburbs that are built around those big cities to allow families to sort of, eventually move out of the cities to live in those suburbs. Albany is a little bit like that, but it's much further away from New York. It's 2.5 hours by Amtrak. It's a mix of wealthy suburban towns mixed in with some very low to middle income towns as well, along with, I would say, a substantially higher crime rate than one would expect. So while there were parts of it which were incredibly nice, there were also parts of it which were very, very quiet. Not a single store open past 4 p.m. You wouldn't see a single person on the street. there was a feeling of uneasiness, which I didn't particularly like, especially given the fact that we also had a very harsh winter. So you would walk out of your house, it was like 6 feet of snow, and you would also be like, oh my God, there is not a single soul out here. So definitely a very different experience. I will say a disclaimer, I think in the summer it's beautiful, there are so many lovely hikes and people love living there. This was just my own personal experience living there, which I don't think was particularly, the best.
And how would you describe the people there in terms of the community, in terms of knowing each other? Is there a sense of community there?
I think America as a country is very, very individualistic. Like right now, we're sitting in Gurgaon in like the biggest community living place ever, which has so much community. So I think America as a country is very individualistic. And the more you go into like suburbia, into smaller towns, it's normal for you to feel like there isn't a sense of community for you as a person, right? Because everyone who's lived there and grown up there already has created their own bubble, and you're sort of always the outsider. So you do tend to feel like that more so in smaller towns than you do in big cities, where there are enough other people like you who are international, have lived in other places, who've just moved here for a certain period of their life. But saying that, I also did feel like the people I interacted with did not have as much breadth of experience, which nearly made them, like, I found it difficult to connect with them. And they found it harder to connect with me. But as I said, I did make 2 very good friends there, which was amazing and really helped me through my 8 months. I think it was the core reason I survived those 8 months. But yeah, I feel like it just wasn't the right fit.
So you were talking about Smith College, then the transition to Albany. And what happened after that?
So after that, I finally moved to New York. I accepted a role at JP Morgan and moved their OCIO team, where I was essentially working in like institutional investment management. And honestly, when I got the job, I was like, my first thought was, yay, I can finally leave Albany. Like, this whole era of my life is over. I can finally move to the city. Like, everyone dreams of living in New York. Like, I could not have been more excited. So yeah, I literally placed all my belongings into an Uber XL. My mattress, my headboard frame, my floor-to-ceiling mirror, and like all my suitcases, and Ubered from Albany to New York, and moved into my apartment. I don't really know how to describe my first year in New York. I want to say that it was one of those years in your life which you would truly like to forget. I had a terrible, terrible boss. Really bad hours. I was working ridiculous hours. And to an extent, I don't think I was mentally, emotionally, or physically ready for this, because Albany had nearly bored me in a way. Like, I was so used to a very, just a very lethargic life, to an extent that suddenly running everywhere, waking up at 6:30, taking the train to work, going in person 5 days a week, like coming home at 9:30, showering, sleeping, and doing the same thing again and again every day. Friday evening, I used to enter my apartment, order dinner, eat, and sleep. Like, I was so exhausted for the first entire month. Like, I barely spoke to anyone. Like, if you were calling me, there was a 90% chance that I did not pick up. Like, I just had no mental bandwidth for anyone.
So you were completely drained by the work environment, and that kind of leaked into your personal life.
Correct, yes. I feel like it was the work environment, it was a change, it was the fact that I didn't know too many people in New York. It was just everything combined. I was just far too overstimulated. I was just like, what have I suddenly gotten myself into? I think this went on for like the first 3 months, like definitely. And then your body adjusts. Whether it's good or bad, you sort of just start getting used to it. You get used to long hours. You get used to toxic work environment. It sort of all just becomes normal to you, which sucks, but it just is the way it is. It was summer. I had, for 40 days straight, like literally 40 days straight, I had guests every single day. I was living my best life. I was beyond exhausted. I had no money in my bank account. I was eating at every fancy restaurant there is, going out to like 3 a.m. every night, and I was basically like so overworked from 8 to 7 and so overworked from 7 to 2. Like there's no other way for me to put it. Like I was running on like no battery whatsoever, but I was like, I don't care anymore. So that was like the next 4 months of my life in New York. It was chaotic and crazy and like everything that I never thought it would be, honestly. Like I just did not expect that to be. Like I was running at 200% every day with negative 200% in my body. I was eating nothing. Like it was so bad that finally in September there were 3 weeks when I was so sick that I literally couldn't put a single thing. Like I was having soup for 3 weeks. That's when my body just crashed. Luckily, that was also when I came home for 2 weeks and I was like, okay, maybe I can just reset. That was amazing. I had time to calm down, reset, and went back to New York so much calmer and better. And that's when I actually think things started looking upwards for me. I felt better at work. Work itself hadn't changed, just my attitude towards it had. I feel like I was more in control of how I dealt with situations. Life had gotten better. I had more friends in New York. I had like, a social life. I was loving the city, had so many things to do, was really feeling like I was living in some, like there were moments I would wake up and I still remember this and I'd be on the train or I'd watch the subway come in and I'd be like, wow, like I think people dream of this. Like people dream of like this life and I'm actually living it. And there are days when I absolutely hate it and I'm crying on the train. But there are also days when I look up and I'm like, wow, like I'm so grateful. Like this is like this is so cool.
So there's a bit of a dichotomy in a way.
Definitely, yes. And I feel like everyone faces that, It may not even be about New York. Like no matter where you are, like you're gonna have some really shitty days, especially when you're living alone in your 20s, you're in an unknown city. A lot of your high school friends, your college friends may not be in the same city as you. You're sort of like starting afresh, finding new friends and just like doing the whole thing. It can be so overwhelming, but you also don't really have anyone but yourself to like rely on. So I feel like you sort of just have to like go for it. So yeah, I feel like things got better. I moved into my own studio and I think the next year and a half in New York was honestly great. Started really loving my team, ended up making amazing friends at work, and I also moved into my own apartment. So I feel like all over things started looking upwards. And yeah, honestly, after that, like everybody has bad moments, but overall, like I genuinely think that no other city has taught me as much resilience as New York has. It's like the kind of place where you can be sobbing on the train and no one will even blink at you. Like no one gives a fuck. Like that's just the reality of it.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
I think it's a mix of both. It sort of teaches you that you sort of just have to keep going on. Like you're crying, but like 10 people out there could be celebrating, and at the same time you could be celebrating and 10 people out there are like sitting and crying, right? It's also just a reality of the fact that no one is really stopping for you. Like you will sort of have to just deal with it, wake up, and sort of you can re-enter back into life and the world will keep going on.
For sure.
Like nothing really ended just because this horrible thing happened. So I feel like it's really that it has such an inbuilt like hustle culture. Like it's so motivating in a way because every time you go out and meet people, like everyone is doing so many things that it's like you'll be at a table and one person works at Tesla, one person works at Nvidia, Microsoft, Google, JP Morgan, Two Sigma, Jane Street. Like everyone is so accomplished that it's nearly like not a big deal to be accomplished. It's like such an interesting place to live and grow because everyone is like consistently trying to find ways to better themselves. And New York is such a consumer driven city that there are all the tools there to like, oh, like let's grab it and like spend more money to make ourselves better. And spend more money, you need to earn more money, so you're doing better. It's like literally all inbuilt.
So it's highly capitalistic.
Very capitalistic.
I guess, like you're saying, you're surrounded by people who are inspiring you to also get on that grind and level up yourself.
Yes, definitely. So yeah, that was New York, yeah.
And then after that?
So my work visa in New York finished, or is actually going to finish in the next few days. I unfortunately did not get the H-1B visa lottery. So I had to make the difficult decision of what I want to do next. And I was honestly very unsure because I had now lived in America for 7 years. And while I did enjoy visiting India, I just felt like I had become, in a way, to some parts of me, or the way I thought were too Americanized for me to fit back into India. But I honestly didn't really have any other options. My visa was expiring. I couldn't live there any longer. So I quit my job on April 15th, which was honestly incredibly sad. I miss my team so much. I had the most amazing team, friends, everything. I was blessed. And just, live my best life in New York for 2 weeks after that and moved back home to India on May 1st. I grew up in Bombay and have lived there all my life. My parents now recently, after COVID, moved to New Delhi. My grandparents are here and they sort of now live in between Bombay and Delhi and do a back and forth. A lot of my friends are still in Bombay, so I definitely hope to find a job soon and move to Bombay as well. But so moved back to Delhi and it's definitely been an adjustment. I feel like for the first month I was traveling a lot and it didn't really hit me that I had actually moved back home. But every day I just see so many differences in the way people are here, and sometimes just even in my approach to the way I think through things. That being said, it's been nice to be home. It's been lovely. I feel like I'm being pampered, eating great food, and there are definitely so many beautiful parts about being home, right? India is so collectivist. It's the kind of place where if someone's sick, without a thought, you send food. It's so normal to loan things to people, be there to help someone. It doesn't even matter if they aren't your closest, dearest friend or aunt or cousin. It's such a community driven society that if you see someone hurt or in need of help, you run to offer that help, which I feel is so beautiful. And honestly, you never see that in New York. It's too fast paced, people are too selfish, it's too expensive. No one cares about anyone but themselves. So I feel those small moments where you actually see other people caring for someone else is so beautiful, and honestly you only see that in India, in my opinion. So yeah, I feel it's definitely been a change. It's one I'm adjusting to. The workplace I'm trying to recruit here is so different. I feel people are so focused on just getting the work done from what I've seen, which is definitely different than what I'm used to. But I think slowly I'm trying to find the in-between of myself between the two worlds, because I don't think I'm entirely here nor entirely there. I feel I somehow exist somewhere in the middle, and I'm just trying to find that perfect balance. But yeah.
What does New Delhi do better than New York? And what does New York do better than New Delhi?
I think New Delhi. So I honestly don't know Delhi that well. I've honestly only come here, and I should start counting the number of times I've said honestly. But I've only come here for weeks at a time, maybe two weeks at a time. I've never even lived here for more than 3 weeks probably at the max. So I don't really know Delhi that well. I think I know Bombay better, but what does Delhi do better than New York? I think it's warmth. I think people are so warm in Bombay and in Delhi. People just genuinely want to help you. There's so much jugaad in both these cities. If there's an old lady, you need her to go to the front of the line, you need a special seat for her on the plane. People are willing to adjust. They're willing to help you. Yesterday I was on an Air India flight. I do not like Air India. This video should not condone Air India in any way. But I didn't eat anything, and at the end the guy who was pushing the trolley comes to me with 2 cookies and he's like, "Ma'am, you haven't eaten anything, it's been 3 hours, I just thought I'd bring you cookies," and he just gave me the cookies. This would never ever happen in America. This would never happen on any budget airline ever. So I just feel it's the small things which you look up and you're wow, yeah, it's not as developed, it's not as clean, the weather isn't as great, there aren't as many things, but the people are genuinely nicer, in my opinion. I think New York does food better than Delhi, which I'm sure is a very controversial opinion. But as someone who is severely allergic to nuts, I never actually enjoyed Indian food in Delhi or in Bombay for that matter. And I just feel like this is what I've been feeling off late, is that other cuisines that are replicated in India, they're sort of like done in a very like Indo-Chinese way, unless you go to a very high-end restaurant. And in doing that, they kind of like add too much salt, in my opinion, like too much spicy mayo, like too much everything, which just dilutes the actual taste of the protein or the vegetable, whatever it is. So I just personally think that New York has the most phenomenal restaurant scene and food culture that I've ever experienced. So that's definitely, I think, the selling point.
When it comes to food, you mentioned you are a bit of a foodie, right?
Yeah.
For someone who's maybe visiting New York, top 3 restaurants you recommend they could visit?
Yeah, oh my God, that's my favorite question. I have a Google Maps with all my favorite restaurants, bars, bakeries, clubs, everything on there, brunch spots. And I've sent it to like all my friends, and I keep like updating it. I'm so obsessed with it. My top 3 favorite restaurants in New York. So in no specific order, honestly, just like what I would like go back for. One of them is Rosella. This is a small like sushi spot. It's in Alphabet City in the East Village. It is absolutely amazing. It's a little bit more omakase style, which is what we did, which essentially in this context literally meant that we sat there and the chef was like, "Do you trust me?" And we were like, "Yes." And he just brought out random dishes for us, which were all absolutely insane. Like, it was such a good meal. I will never forget it. So I think that was just like one of like the best meals I've had in New York. Another spot which is actually like not as well known, but I really like it, and for some reason it's like coming to my mind right now. Maybe not top 3, but at this moment I'm like thinking about it, is Ensenada. It is a Mexican seafood spot in Williamsburg. I believe it's in South Williamsburg. The most amazing ceviche and aguachile, and like they do all their fish so well. Like, cannot recommend more. I think my favorite brunch spot has always been Buvette. I just think it's so good. It's such a classic. You can always get a spot there. They have the most amazing beet salad, which lives in my head rent free. So yeah, I think those are like my top 3 in a very random order, just what I'm feeling right now. Favorite spots in New York.
Awesome. And one more question before I go to the final question, which is, what are you most looking forward to in Delhi while you're here? You've settled back in New Delhi. What are you most looking forward to? What goals do you have your eyes set on?
Yeah, of course. I think I'm honestly intrigued to see where this chapter of life takes me. Like, I have no idea. I really don't have that many friends in Delhi at all. I feel like I'm just like sort of in this eat, pray, love era of my life where I'm unemployed, really don't have much responsibility. So I'm just interested to see where it takes me. I'm looking forward to spending some more time with my family. I feel like I haven't lived so close to them or been here for so long, for like over 5 years now. So it's very nice to like be here for like all the smaller events, the celebrations. That's been great. I really want to sort of pivot from what I was previously doing in New York. I'm intrigued to see what the Indian work culture looks like and the kind of opportunity that actually exists here. So yeah, and I guess I also kind of want to travel more, so hopefully 3 more countries before the end of 2025.
Awesome. Some very exciting plans you have. And now we've pretty much run the end of this conversation, but I do want to ask you one question, which is what I ask everyone at the end, which is, for anyone watching this, do you have a general piece of advice that you could offer? Any piece of advice?
Yeah, I think a general piece of advice that always rings in my head, and I actually remember hearing it at my first session at my Goldman Sachs orientation. I was like 17 years old and I really did not want to be in this orientation. But the only thing that he said that stuck with me was that if you never ask, the answer will always be no, which is so true. And anytime in life I don't want to ask someone something, I'm always like, if I don't ask, it'll always be no. But if I do ask, then there's a 50% chance, like maybe they say yes, but maybe they say no, but like at least I asked. So yeah.
Very inspiring and simple piece of advice, but very useful for sure. And I'm sure anyone who watches this will have learned a thing or two that's new about New York and Delhi.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.